My name's Rick Clunn. I'd like to share with you a story, maybe more than one. But, when I performed my whole career, it's always been at my highest levels when your mind, your body, and your soul are working together. And and I especially tend to have taken for granted how good a body I've had, genetically speaking, I guess. The only problems I've ever had is when I was something self-inflicted, you know, high school football injuries or stuff like that. But overall, my career has been pretty painless, physically speaking, even though back about 5 years ago when COVID hit, uh, that was my 45th year, and I was, in my 70s. Uh, it was the first day of the tournament at Clayton, New York on the St. Lawrence River. And it was one of those days, and all anglers have seen them, where I was running from Clayton back to Waddington, which was about 60 miles downriver. And it was COVID, so we didn't have any marshals. They took the marshals out of the boat. And I've kind of looked at that two different ways that day. But I was running back, and I saw it was slick glass calm. It was one of those mirror days. It was literally, there wasn't a ripple or nothing on the water. But about halfway there, I saw this ocean-going tanker going against the current on the Canadian side. I was way over here on the American side, running toward Waddington, and I knew going against the current, it was probably going to be pushing a big wake. So I kept, okay, keep your eyes out for that wake, and I did, and I ran and I looked for it, but then I got in an area called Brockville where there's a lot of underwater granite reefs. So I had to do two things. I had to look down at my depth finders to look for those reefs so I didn't run over one of them, then look up for the wave. Anyway, I never saw it until I was airborne. I mean, literally, I came up over the wave and the boat came all the way out of the water like this. And here's the next wave. The back of the boat comes down on the next wave, and the back of it hits, and just, of course, when it hits the water, it just slams the nose down. I knew that was fixing to happen, so I actually stood up, okay, to brace for the hit, because I knew it was going to be bad. And when I hit so hard, my left foot slipped out from under me, and it threw me between the two seats, and I landed on fiberglass between the two seats. And I mean, it knocked the wind out of me. It reminded me of getting hit in high school football when you couldn't catch your breath. Somebody'd hit you head on, knock the wind out of you. And I could feel pain. And finally, I caught my breath, and I kept hoping the pain would go away, but it didn't. And okay, I got my wind about me, and I finally got back in the driver's seat, and I started running back, and I went ahead and got to my water up around Waddington. And literally, I still had a good day, had over 20-pound bag of smallmouth that day, but the pain never would go away. And in fact, I could make about 10, 15 casts, and then I'd have to sit down and lay down and catch my breath. And then I'd stand back up and make 10 or 15 casts and have to stand up. I was hoping it would eventually go away, like all those kind of injuries did. But needless to say, it did not. And I fished the whole tournament, and it just kept getting kind of worse. I felt like I was passing a kidney stone at night, which was no fun. Uh, and
The other anglers' wives actually called me to tell me that you hadn't come out of your camper and how worried they were.
Yeah, that actually took place when I went to Champlain, where literally the wives were starting to, I'd actually asked one of them if they knew how, what I could do for a kidney stone, and Candy Heron said, yeah, drink a bunch of beer. you know, so, so I drank a few beers, and then I tried to take some, cranberry juice and all that, but it wasn't a kidney stone. I actually ended up, found out, I went and I fished the tournament at
And
Champlain.
drove all the way home?
And drove all the way home. Finally went to the doctor, and I had crushed 3 vertebrae in the middle of my back. I hadn't damaged the spinal cord, thank goodness. So I didn't need surgery, but I had to do a lot of stuff to try to get this vertebrae realigned. My wife, Melissa, bought me one of those upside down machines, and where you hang upside down like a bat. And it helped. And so, but I'm still fighting it to now, 5 years later. I'm going into my 50th year next year, and I'm still fighting that. But there's a kind of a double-edged sword there that, yeah, now my body is, mind, body, and soul are not completely operating together. My mind knows what to do, but my body can't completely do it because if my back will fatigue, and then I'll have to do some yoga exercises or stuff to give me some, a little bit more energy during the day. And of course, I look back on it, and I thank goodness, I guess, I didn't have a marshal that day. But at the same time, me and my marshals usually work real well together, and I advise this to the rest of you, that they help me look for things. Maybe he would have saw it. Maybe he would say, oh, hey, it's coming, and then I wouldn't hit it, but he wasn't there, needless to say. So I went on, like I said, Fish Lake Champlain, the second day of practice. I went out on the water. I started throwing up over the side. And that's when I went back, and Candy gave me her beer advice.
Coyotes. You had the coyotes.
Yeah, we got coyotes join us on our little story here. But the message here to me was, and I've been this way my whole life, is that there's a lot of things saving me from having pain. A lot of guys, because we fished those little short rods, their wrists would get bad, their elbows would get bad. I went to these long handle rods. I was fishing with Gary Clunn one time, and he was wanting me to show him how to fish crankbaits, and I was. And anyway, he picked up his flipping stick, because there was no 7-foot long handle rods back then. He had all those flipping sticks made, custom made, and they were long handle. And all of a sudden, he reaches down, picks one up, ties on a crankbait, and I said, "What in the world is he doing?" And all of a sudden, I could see the advantages of it. You weren't doing this anymore with that crankbait 2,000 times a day. You were doing this, which is a much kinder motion to your shoulders and to your body. And so I started fishing long handle rods. So in a lot of areas, I avoided potential fishing hazards, due to just things like that. But that one I didn't avoid, and I'm still dealing with it. My other advice there is one of the things anglers do is they use foot pedals. They drive like a car, a foot pedal. Okay, if you love a foot pedal, which most of them do, get the combination, foot pedal versus where you can switch to running it. I run through strictly with the throttle, because my whole career I depended on my legs in rough water. And your legs takes the pressure off your back. If you're on that foot pedal and you don't have the throttle, it forces you to sit on your butt, and every hit you hit is affecting your spine. So again, this is just some things I would suggest doing. You can't not imagine how many waves we're going to hit in a year. You can't. I can do the math for you, and my lousy math. If there's a wave every 5 feet and there's 500 feet in a mile, you do the math, and you run 3 or 4. You run 60 miles one day, 60 miles the other. It don't take you long to hit 1,000,000 waves. Okay, that impacts your spine. So really, take care of yourself out there on the water, because I can't believe how big a distraction this is to my mental focus that I've been fighting now for almost 5 years.